fucking brutal. Hello, 안녕하세요. I'm Shandor. Welcome to Cinemarea, where we only talk about South Korean movies and dramas. Marriage. Such a wonderful thing, right? Wrong! Just kidding, I have no idea, I'm not actually married. But if you watch The World of the Married or 부부의 세계, you'll most likely think twice about getting married. The World of the Married is a 16-episode 2020 drama starring Kim Hee-ae, Park Hae-joon, So-hee, Jon Jin-seo, Kyoung-young, who's in a lot of movies, and a lot of others. The show was immensely successful. Its success even surpassed Sky Castles, and after having seen it, I can totally understand it. Kim Hee-ae plays a successful doctor and her life is perfect. He has a loving husband, played by Park Hae-joon, a son, played by Jon Jin-seo, they have a beautiful home, they have friends. It's basically the picture-perfect life everyone can ask for. Until she finds out that her husband is cheating on her with a younger woman. After she finds that out, her picture-perfect life is broken into shreds, and it's all downhill from there. 부부의 세계 is absolutely fantastic, but it's not an easy show to watch. It is a painfully realistic reflection on the current state of marriage, and I think it's pretty much a global phenomenon. In my personal opinion, right now in 2020, marriage doesn't mean anything. People are divorcing left and right, relationships are falling apart constantly. I think something is very wrong, and this show reflects that perfectly. The World of the Married is very much a drama, and although sometimes it almost reaches thriller territory, it stays within the boundaries of a drama. And yet it's heavier than some thrillers, thanks to its depiction of how people deal with loss, pain, anger, and grief over losing something important. It grabs you, chews you up, and spits you out, and yet it's highly addictive. What I absolutely love about this show is that it knows that no one wins in a situation like this. When people get divorced, everyone suffers, but the kids especially. That's probably the hardest aspect of the show, watching how their son is affected by all this, especially since he's innocent. Unfortunately, I've seen this kind of thing in my own family when one of my relatives got divorced. It's a very painful thing to watch even from the outside. So in a way, this show is not for the faint-hearted, because although some of the conflicts are highly exaggerated, at its core, this show is painfully realistic. But the really great thing about this drama is that the characters are constantly changing, evolving and evolving, as they feel a lot more human even compared to other dramas. People aren't just black and white, and I generally don't think that people are just plainly good or bad, and somehow the creators were able to portray this perfectly. Take the main character for example. At first we're sympathizing with her because she's truly a victim, but as the episodes move along she also does a lot of questionable things. And it's understandable considering her mental and emotional state, but morally sometimes she is very wrong. And sometimes very right. And it's true for all the characters, sometimes you agree with them, sometimes you don't, just like with real people. That's incredible writing. Now, one thing I truly appreciate about the characters is that they all love their children to death. Of course, not every character or couple has children, but those that do love their children deeply. That's how it should be. Let's talk a little bit about the acting here, because the show wouldn't work if the actors weren't able to sell it. Kim Hee-ae as the main character, first off, she's gorgeous. She's beautiful. I looked it up. She was born in 1967. She's 53. In Korean age, she's 54. And I just can't believe that. The show has a theme about men cheating on their wives because the wives get older. Well, in that respect, the casting is really bad because Kim Hee-ae is just gorgeous. And her acting is just as great. She carries the whole show on her shoulders. She's playing a really smart, heartfelt, strong, yet vulnerable person. And as her life starts to fall apart, you can really feel it. She was amazing. I must watch some of her other works. She was unbelievable. Park Hae-joon was also great as his husband. Like I mentioned, the characters aren't black and white here, and as easy it is to hate him at first, he's still somehow able to maintain a certain element of humanity in him. To the point where sometimes we're almost sympathizing with him, even though his mistake is the basis of all suffering in his drama. I've only seen Park Hae-joon in Believer before. Obviously, this drama has a lot more opportunities for him to shine, and he runs with it. And if you're wondering how can a 16-episode drama with such a simple premise be interesting, well, there are always new conflicts, new challenges that the characters have to face. Also, there's a time jump at the end of the 6th episode, and there is also a huge source of conflict, and it just goes on and on and on, accompanied with some great music. I didn't like all the music, but usually it was pretty great, and it fit the mood really well. The World of the Married is almost a perfect show. Almost. So-hee as the younger woman, well, she was great with what she had, but honestly I found her character to be the most one-dimensional, and after a while there was just nothing to her character. Her arc also wasn't really interesting. It was pretty disappointing actually. Also, one of the characters die under pretty weird circumstances, and it never really becomes clear whether it was a suicide or a murder. Because if it was a murder, then certain characters are highly suspicious. But the whole thing becomes irrelevant pretty soon, and that was also disappointing. And lastly, Jon Jin as the son of the married couple, well, he was okay. He was okay. Honestly, sometimes I found him to be really annoying, and I think his acting could have been better. Somehow, he just wasn't as expressive, he just didn't feel as genuine as the others, and he's a pretty crucial point of the whole story. Not saying he was bad. Could have been better. And it's true for the last episode as well. Somehow it felt anticlimactic and uneventful compared to the rest of the show. Again, it wasn't bad. Could have been better. But overall, I was immensely impressed by World of the Married. It's a painful yet highly addicting drama about a very much relevant issue, and I'm not just talking about adultery, but the whole package that comes with it. Fantastic acting, great conflicts, great music, great writing. No wonder this show became this successful. I'm gonna give World of the Married 90%. I wasn't particularly a fan of the last episode, but that doesn't mean that it doesn't make sense or anything. It's a great show, and I highly recommend it if you haven't seen it. It's a painful reflection on reality, but I think it's important to face these kind of things, so that maybe we can learn from them and not make these kind of mistakes. Wish you all the best. That's all for today. Thank you all very much for watching. Like and subscribe. 이 영상 좋아하면 구독해주세요. See you all very soon. 다음 시간에 만나요.